and welcome to Big Scott 35. Let's talk. Today, I got everybody knows Mike, baseball collector.
What's up? Yo and hello.
Yo and hello. I'm glad to have you on my channel. I've been kind of waiting a little bit to ask you to come on. I appreciate you doing this. I try to get people in the hobby that with specializations and things I could pick your brain about. And I'm going to blame you right now for getting me started in the PSA registry, which I'm sure you've heard quite a bit from other people.
Sorry. I'm very sorry.
Well, I could tell you when I found the community, I didn't like the first people I was watching. And and you touched on it in one of your videos about the algorithm, but I found you. And you were one of the first people, and you started talking about a registry, and I didn't even know what it was. And man, got me hooked.
Crack cocaine.
Yeah.
Cocaine.
Yeah.
And not even from the standpoint of I said this the other day in a video, and I think I was wrong about this, about the way I think about the registry.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great checklist. I don't really go, oh, I'm number 7. What do I need to do to get to number 6? I don't really think about it that way, but there is some competitiveness to it for sure. But the reality is, I just like to see it all in the way it looks, and the way, if you can't spread all your cards out, I have all my little scans of all my cards.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It's just, there's so much about it to like, and sets and cards I would have never even thought to buy, which some people would say, well, if you never thought to buy it, you shouldn't buy it. Don't buy it just because it's on a registry. And I get that. But at the same time, I've bought some really great cards that I would have never had been on my radar without the registry. So,
and my big one is the Gary Carter registry. And that was, for me, it's like, I love food and beverage, but I didn't know how much was really out there until I got this registry, especially like local stuff, like East, West, whatever markets, and
the regional stuff.
And I have, because of that, I watch Blue Jacket to get more information on that type of stuff. But what I wanted to talk to you about the registry, and I heard you talk about this before, is I think me and you are kind of in the same boat. You do a lot with the Hall of Fame stuff, and you're kind of like, well, not that many 80s cards are graded, so I'm looking for them, and that market is dried up. So are you making a stack to wait for, because there's no way you're going to grade them even if it's at $45. So how are you attacking it? Because I know you made a video of how many you need or you're looking for. So how are you dealing with that at the moment? Hi, Norman.
Hi, Norman. Knocked at my door, which never happens, by the way.
Right.
Julie's going to get the door, but sorry about that.
All right. No, I love life.
Right. It's just part of it. You just go with it.
That's right.
If we weren't recording, I would, like, if this was a normal video, I would just start over. Right. But okay. Answering your question. So the answer is, and you can probably agree to this, I have every 80s card I would need for my kind of master run set. I have them all.
Right.
In raw form, in sets. I could pull them all or common boxes or whatever and send them in. The reality is, it is impossible to do that because of the cost, like you said. Not impossible, it's just stupid to do that. And it makes no financial sense whatsoever. Now, I've bought plenty of cards that I've paid way more than I should have for them. I mean, I'm far from innocent in that, but I'm not going to send them in ever. Even because I could have done this back when it was $8 a card, and I still didn't do it. Because if you get, I don't know which of the cards are going to be, especially on the 80s stuff. It's really hard to tell what PSA is going to. You might spin the wheel and get a 6, or you might spin the wheel and get a 10, or who knows. I did do that for my last card Hall of Famers, because there was some 2000 stuff that I know no one's ever going to grade, or there's going to be so few pops that me waiting for it. And I had all the raw. I just bought all the raw ones. I'd buy 4 or 5 off of you know, Sport Lots or something,
Right.
and get them in. I go, okay, which one's the best one? Send that in, and I still got a 6 and a 7 on like 2,000, like new stuff, relatively new stuff.
Right.
So after I thought they looked pretty good. So you just never know when you spin the wheel at PSA what you're going to get. So patience is my best friend. Like, I don't have to do any of this today. I'm not at like the National. There's bargain boxes where you go find a bunch of 80s stuff. The problem though, Gary, or Scott, that we're going to find is that we won't be able to find this stuff, because as it gets bought up, no one else, just like us, no one else is sending those cards in either. So the populations are going to grow very incrementally, very small. So the idea that there's going to be this flood of 80s cards onto the grading market is just not feasible.
Right.
So maybe you branch out to PSA, or SGC or something like that. But those pops over there are just as, or worse. You know, there's fewer even of those.
Right.
So it's more finding it. Like I bought a League Leaders card, for example, at the last, not this past Dallas show, but the one before. And the guy wanted like $25. It was a 9 and a 84 tops. Like, no, it had Jim Rice on it or something weird, you know, nothing. It's a dime card raw, like literally. Right. And I'm like, no, I ended up paying $10 for it, which is still way less than the cost of grading currently. So I don't know if I'm answering your question.
Well, yeah,
or not, but
so it was just, I'm just doing the same thing as patience, but I'm having where if I do find it, the price is like doubled or tripled, because there's so not that many out there. Be 1 or 2 cards
supply
out.
and demand.
Yeah,
demand is working.
So I do put it on my watch list and wait for them to put an offer out. So
something you might do is go look. Let's say it's some weird regional card, right? That not a just regular Topps card, Donruss Fleer, whatever.
Right.
If it's something that's unusual, go look at PSA and just see how many are out there of that card.
Right.
And if it ends up, usually for me, if there's less than 50 of them total graded, I'm going to send it in myself, because I'll never find one of the 50. They're all hidden away in personal collections, player collections. So if you have like a weirdo blah, blah, blah card that has 30 pop total, you may have to pay $20 whenever it gets back to that, if it ever gets back to that.
Right.
Just to have, if it's that important to you to have it in your collection as a slab, you know, I do think we're going to see a transition also from collectors to being more comfortable just having raw cards in your collection again, because the cost of grading is so high, unless it's higher end or it's just a common. It used to be kind of fun to get them all graded, but now it's not worth it. So you're going to see, well, I have the card, it's not in a slab, so it can't go in my registry. But again, I'm a big believer in someone creating a universal registry.
Yeah.
Kind of consolidated all the different, you can put any card in there, raw, graded, basically a giant, and trading card database does that to some degree.
Right.
I don't necessarily like how they do it, but that's just a personal, probably there's a lot of people out there that love trading card database, and it's awesome.
But I use it for my checklist.
Right.
Yeah. That's
which is it's a great tool for that, no doubt.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers your question, but
well, no, I mean, that's basically what I've been doing, but I just wanted you to, because you've touched on it before in videos, having trouble or the prices going up or whatever. And I don't have many registries. I have 3 or 4 Gary Carters, a 1971, because that was the year I was born, and a Johnny Bench Playing Days. And I used the Roberto Clemente as a checklist, because I showed you the one that I got at the National. That was my first big one. And then I've been getting some of the other ones, but I just try to find them at the ones I like at a price I like. So I'm not going to hamstring myself with being just PSA with that one.
And I think that a lot of people are going to settle, and I mean that literally. Like, it's a shame we have to settle for that.
Right.
If we really like a certain way our collection is going to look and feel and be, and we can't do that anymore
Right.
because of just the circumstances. It kind of sucks.
Right.
But I can't change it. So
Mhm.
I can bitch all I want, but it won't do any good. I have 100 set registries. I'm just pulling it up just to see. I have
Yeah.
100 sets.
I looked through them and I was like, no, I'm not going down this rabbit hole. I just want to work on because as a Gary Carter collector, we grew up in a time where for the longest it was just Tops, and then it was Tops, Donruss, and Fleer. So, there's not a crazy amount of Gary Carters until I found the food and beverage side. And
Now you got the squirt and you got to
yeah,
go the 7-Eleven coin and the whatever, all that
yeah.
stuff.
Well, the 7-Eleven coin is the one where there's like 3 or 4 regions and different colors. And the squirt, I just got already before the boom. I got it in a 9, totally intact. So I'm good. I don't have the one with Fisk. I got it, but not PSA graded. So
is it the panel?
yeah,
The squirt panel.
And I have all the panels from all the Little Miss or Little Debbie cakes or whatever, Hostess, whatever they were. The Hostess, yeah. So I'm doing all right with those, and I've had the Kellogg's ones because I used to make my parents buy those just to get the cards. So
I used to buy so much Kraft macaroni. Used to have these Kraft card. Carter, I think, has a Kraft card.
Yep.
And I used to buy so many boxes of Kraft macaroni and cheese for no reason other than to be able to cut the cards off the back.
Get the cards off. Yeah, that was my main thing when I went to the store. And I didn't say anything, but it's okay to call me Gary. I get called Gary a lot.
Well, it's because and it was just a Freudian slip. Because I think Bink Scott, and then Gary, right? And then wait, no, this is just Scott, not Bink Scott.
Yeah. I've had this name forever playing gaming, and then when I came into YouTube world, I just brought it over. If I'd known Bink was here, I would have done something else.
What's that? Could be like Jake and change your name. He changed from.
Yeah, I just everybody at my work and all over where I've lived in different places just kind of know me by this, so it's kind of like, if I went to something else, they'd be like, "What are you going to buy that for?" But me and Gary have talked to each other, and I said something about going to the national and getting an arrow saying like Scott and Gary, stand beside each other, because I get that a lot. But anyway, back to what we we're talking about. I just wanted to throw that in.
No, and I apologize. That was just
that's fine. I just wanted to tell you everything was great with that. Going back to now, I brought the cards that I got last year at the national. Brought them over to you because I respect what you and your eye for vintage. And I can tell you, before I went to that, I told Eric I was studying like I was cramming for an exam to go buy these 3 cards that I bought. Outside of that, and I was scared, and you've talked about it before on your podcast a little bit about people having fear of buying vintage. And I just, I'm 50 years old, and I forget like people call 70s cards now vintage. So yes, I bought vintage. I bought my first national I ever went to. I got the Johnny Bench rookie, but I never bought 50s cards. And what would your advice be for people that are a little nervous, a little scared? Going to a card show could be a little overwhelming when you don't know what you're really talking about. Because I was even nervous when I got there. That first card I bought, it's not the fear of being taken. You just want to know what you're talking about, So or at least have some idea. Is there any advice anywhere to go to get prepared before you go to like a Dallas show or anywhere like that?
Yeah, I mean, my best rule to give people is it takes a village. Mm-hmm. And if you can have resources of other people, 2 heads are better than 1, 3's better than 2, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
I don't joke when I say Andrew Nuff Said Cards is my cardboard whisperer. I'll say, hey, come, I'll call him, text him at a show. Hey, come here and look at this. If I'm buying a bigger card, if it's a $10 card, $20 card, you know, if I screw up, it's not life-changing, but I don't want to screw up at all. The reality is I'd rather just not mess up at all. You learn a lot from making mistakes. I've made plenty of them in the hobby over the reality is there's not really a ton of resources. It's practice, it's experience. And if you don't have it yet, rely on people that do. You know, don't buy a big card unless you can. For sure, you need to scan the, look up the serial number on PSA. You can do that on the app and just see, is this legit? Is this serial number say that this is what this card is, right?
Right.
That would be step number one to protect yourself. If you're by yourself and have no other people resources available to you to help, if you don't have any friends with you, kind of thing. And then, I mean, just at the Dallas show last weekend, I had JT and Andy and Michael and a bunch of guys that looked at my 52 Mano before I bought it.
Right.
Bowman, not Tom.
Yeah.
But
yeah, congratulations on that.
Great card. But I'm like, and mainly it's like, hey, tell me if I'm crazy. Like, it was in a brand new Lighthouse holder. That helps. That's something to also consider. If it's an SGC, make sure it's a new flip, the new style. I would avoid old flips on any grading company. I would avoid all the non-normal companies. If it's not BVG, PSA, SGC, I wouldn't even touch it. If it's a GMA or something like that, unless the guy will let you crack it right there and feel the card. No way am I buying a bigger card. And it may be a lot cheaper, but there's a reason it might be a lot cheaper, right? And why take the risk? It's so unfortunately, if you're by yourself, check the serial number, make sure that's the right card. Try to buy a newer holder in those, probably PSA or SGC would be most likely. And then, don't be mad if you're wrong. Like, just accept that you're going to make a mistake at some point.
Right.
And try not to beat yourself up over it. Learn from it and move on. And dabble in vintage or here's another thing you can do at a show. Let's say you're buying a 68 Topps bench rookie, right? And it's in a slab and it all looks good. Everything looks good. Go to a dealer, a vintage dealer that's a raw dealer, and see if they, find somebody with some 68 Topps and look at it, feel it. I mean, you can't do that in a slab. That's the problem, but you can definitely tell reprints. The printing is very different if you have a loop. There's a whole world of examining the card. The print matrix on old Topps cards is very distinct under a loop. So you can tell very quickly if it was printed on a modern printer or if it was printed, if it's time period, the way they printed cards back in the 50s and 60s. Right. And it was very consistent all through those 2 decades, especially. The 70s, it gets a little wonky, but through the 50s and 60s, you can look under a loop and tell very quickly, yep, this was printed in that time period, or at least using the same processes. Right. Forgers could probably get pretty creative and figure out a way to do the four color process that they used back in the day to really make some good fakes. But that's, again, low, but you can't feel the cards. So, but look at some older vintage, like look at some raw vintage that nobody's going to fake a 68 Topps Joe Smith or whoever, and take a look at it and just see. So that's, I don't know if that's helpful to people.
It helps me because before I went for the Clemente and the Satchel page, I probably looked at hundreds and hundreds of cards and different prices range just so I could be familiar. Because the one thing with grading has done, it puts you in a ballpark with a number and a pricing.
Yep.
And then, for me, I like, if it's got borders, I like to see 4 borders. They don't have to be exactly centered. Rounded corners doesn't turned me away from those cards. I have my dad's old cards, so it kind of makes me feel like I got some of his, because I got his Jackie Robinson over here I keep on my table. And so that was some great information, actually, because I always look for like the little trademark things and stuff like that, because that seems like to be the thing that forgers leave off, the little dot or whatever afterwards.
Yeah.
So that's some good effort. I never thought about actually looking at the text. I can do a smell test on the raw stuff.
100%. And if you don't know what he's talking about, you can smell vintage. It is distinct. It is
Right.
very unique. And once you get that smell in your nose, you'll remember it. And
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it. It's musty almost.
Right.
It's just old. It smells old.
Right. I had to prove that to my owner of my LCS. I go, you can smell the difference.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, because that's those two things have been huge. And usually when I have people in here, I go, "How do you get started?" I know how you got started. You've been doing it since you recognized what a card was on the shelf. If anybody wants to know that, they can watch your video. You're always talking about how long you've been doing it. But one thing I want to bring up the day that we're recording this. We just found out that we think we got a baseball season started temporarily. I guess not all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. And so, yay! I've been refusing to wear baseball stuff because I feel like we've all been enablers in this. So I'm like, I've been watching hockey. And
No, I'm still wearing my Rangers cap.
well, I've been wearing my Nationals cap to work. So I can't, I'm not perfect either. I just put this on today because I was like, but I always ask everybody comes on is, how do you feel about, now that we know more about Fanatics, them buying Topps, how do you feel about them pretty much owning the card world outside of hockey?
I think the story has yet to be written still. As much as we know now, there's way more that we don't know.
Right.
And I think it would be a mistake to assume anything. I'm glad Topps will continue. What that will look like, I'm sure there'll be a flagship set and some other things that are going to kind of be legacy things that continue on, that Fanatics will continue. I'm afraid the production's just going to go through the absolute roof because they've made such a huge investment into these licenses and acquisitions of Topps, etc.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big nut to try to make up. And I can see a whole nother round of overproduction, maybe not necessarily beyond flagship on a per set basis. I can just see them putting out all kinds of online exclusive type stuff. And, they're going to use the medium that they're really good at, which is online retailing,
right,
to its highest degree. It's going to be used a lot. I could see the death of wax in retail stores, Walmart and Target, going the way of the dinosaur eventually. Not necessarily, none of this happens overnight, in my opinion. It's going to be a transition for them. The hobby shops, they say they're supporting hobby shops. I don't know how much I believe that, honestly. I think hobby shops will still sell cards. I just think they're going to buy them from the distributors are the ones that are going to be cut out of the deal.
Yeah, I think the distributors are going to be the ones that are going to be out.
Yeah. And that you'll get your product directly from Fanatics at potentially some discount by buying in bulk and being a authorized reseller, yada yada, right? But it's going to cut out that middleman. I mean, why shouldn't they? They have the ability to do it. Sure.
Well, their first hire was the guy that started StockX, so there's a reason for that, right? So they want to take over all the they want to be the eBay, the PSA, and everything. It sounds like so, which I think if they get into grading, I really can't see that, but I just hope they keep the Tops name. I hope they didn't buy it for just to have like the oh, we got a ready set team to go on things. So
I think it'll be like Tops on the front, and then on the back, Tops presented by Fanatics or
right,
brought to you by Fanatics or something. They're going to co-brand that somehow.
right.
Again, they didn't pay all that money not to have Fanatics plastered all over everything.
It'll be in every Hat World store and mall
Yep.
or
Lid,
baseball park,
all the lid stores, and
lid store, wherever you buy Fanatics. Well, Mike, it's almost half an hour. I'm happy you came on and did this. I've been wanting to talk to you about the PSA registry. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add or
I'm excited baseball's starting.
Yes, I am
I'm
100%. I had goosebumps when I read that on my phone today because I think me and you both are in the same boat that we just love baseball. And I live out here in the middle of the country, so I'm a little far away from all the stadiums, so I don't get to see it live as much as I used to. But hopefully I'm moving back east, so we'll see what happens.
Are you going to the National this year?
I have got my ticket sitting right here and got my place to stay, which seems like the hardest thing to do.
What days are you going?
I'm going every day.
Okay.
This is the first year I've been on the Wednesday night, and I'm very excited for that.
It's my favorite day.
That's what I'm hearing, and I usually don't get there till Thursday afternoon. Yeah, I'm excited, and there's 10 of us staying in a house. So
who are you staying with?
Bobbles and Ball Cards.
Okay.
Him and his wife got the house, and I don't know if you know Nats Man 72.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, a couple other guys in that group. They asked me if I wanted to go, and I said sure when he told me the price. So
it is amazing how many people in the community are doing that. There's apparently you got a crew of guys. Mangini and his yahoos are all staying together. I've got a house of 7. There's 7 of us staying in the house that I rented. The Airbnb thing just is, and because it's about the people as much as the cards are great. And once you go with friends like that and you're in the community like we are, you don't want to ever do it any other way. Like,
yeah,
it's just,
last year was my first year where I was really entangled with the community. Other years I've kind of standoffish, but this year kind of went in full force, and I ranked that up to one of my favorite vacations, much less national, and that was my 5th national. So
yeah, it enhances the experience to a whole nother level.
Right.
We're going to be doing another, meet and greet or like YouTube get together kind of thing.
I was going to ask
community that Thursday night of the national. Details to follow on Baseball Collector channel, but it'll be another blast. Everybody just gets to meet different people and hang out, and we'll figure that out. I've never been to Atlantic City, so I didn't go to the last AC show.
Yeah, not messing much.
So I don't know what's there, but we'll find something, and we will figure that out for sure. Maybe it'll be at the house we're renting and just have a big kegger at the house. But
college days.
That's right. Togas and kegs.
That's right.
There's some of us in the community, present company included, that I don't want to see in a toga myself.
Me too.
Nobody wants to see that. I promise. Being a toga would not work very well. But
yeah, I saw our group last year, but I don't know if I want to see that.
No. If Christy Brinkley was in our, I'm dating myself now. Christy Brinkley from the 80s. Who's I don't even know any like hot supermodels now, because I'm old man now. So I don't, but nobody like that in our community, unfortunately. Right. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the national. It's going to be here before we know it. I mean, we're 4 months away, 4.5 months away.
Yeah, and I plan on having some of the guys we're staying with when I get closer to do a Let's Talk, just about what we're looking for, and I think I'm the only one that's a veteran of this experience, so I'm excited for that. I'm a house full with newbies, so that's going to be exciting in itself.
It's a rookie year.
Yeah. It's nothing better than just, I know how I was the first time, and I'm kind of like that every year when you first walk in, but I get over it kind of quick.
You can't prepare anyone for it.
No.
If they've never been, you can try to explain it. It's like having kids. You can tell people that don't have kids what
Right.
it's like to have kids. They can't understand until they act, and then they go, "Oh yeah, I see what you were talking about."
Right.
And it's the same deal with the national. You can
Yeah.
describe it as best you can. It won't do it justice.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, like, what was going on in all the hotels with the show just continued. I'm just wondering if that's going to be able to be the same way with it being casinos and security and stuff. Like, if
I
that's
bet
the
we'll
same
see
type of-
more of that happening. Sorry, my phone.
That's
I
okay.
bet we'll see more of that kind of trade night stuff all happening in the foyer of the convention center. Honestly,
Right.
I could see that a card show breaking out outside of the card show after hours.
Right.
That could definitely happen, but yeah, it'll be more difficult in the hotels. I totally agree with you. That's a great point. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, and it is spread out there. It's not Chicago it's not like Chicago where it's all together right there. So that's the other thing that's a problem.
Right.
So
I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure, Mike, to have you on.
Thanks, Gary. No, just kidding.
The man is a veteran of 9 years. Just had a video on it not too long ago of the YouTube world, and also a great person to ask about the vintage and PSA registry, and also knows his new stuff too. He loves the game of baseball, and he's a Dallas Cowboys fan, so he's a smart man.
That's right.
So I'm going to leave his information below if you're one of the 2 people in our community who doesn't know about Mike. And until next time, we'll see you and
keep collecting.